Here's what we've got. Here's the new nonsense that we're looking at today. We're reading from Austin Daily Herald, and the title is A Beautiful World. Columns, ancient texts reveal Aztecs' history in their own words. All right. Let's see what you got to me. That is a beautiful picture, I'll give him that. So let's have a look at this, shall we? Camilla Townsend's new book, Fifth Son, A New History of the Aztecs, documents the story of the Aztecs from an entirely new perspective, that of the Aztecs themselves. Now, up to this point, I don't mind the idea of, okay, because usually, of course, this is contrasted to what? Spanish, medieval information. Because usually that's what we know. What we know about the Aztecs is because of European eyes. So if they translated literature and whatever from them, then it's nice to see, maybe do a little comparative analysis, a neutral comparative analysis, not let's decolonize, so whatever the European said it must be bad. No, that's not professional. A neutral academic analysis and a proper comparison between, to try and see. Great. Is that what we're going to get? What do you think, guys? What do you think? Townsend is a history professor at Rutgers University and the author of numerous historical books. She also happens to be an expert in the Nahuatl language of the ancient Aztecs. Fantastic. Open quotes. I wanted to write a book about Aztec history, Townsend said, because even though there are lots of books out there, and have been for many years, they're all based on Spanish sources and give us a sense of the Aztec as brutal people, really, truly savages. In fact, they were not. They were human beings, just like the rest of us, close quotes. So, I would like to say something about this very quickly. This is a special super professor, so I guess take my logics and reason with a pinch of salt, a little marinara. But here's the thing. The idea that they were human beings and that they may have been savages, or, let's remove that word, brutal, these two things are not mutually exclusive. Like, simply because someone is brutal, I'm not saying the entire population, but I'm saying some, it doesn't mean that, but no, they're not brutal, they're not savages, because they're human beings, just like us. But that would exclude the word brutal and the word savages from the entire planet, because as far as I know, there isn't a single human civilization that doesn't contain human beings just like us. So, are we saying that we cannot call anyone a savage if they are indeed savages? Or, you don't want to use that term because that's derogatory, fine. Brutal. Can we say that there are some among us that are and were brutal? Or can we not use that term anymore if the requirement for you to be brutal is not being human? Maybe I'm a little too pedantic. Let's continue. Let's see what Professor Emeritus tells us. So they were not brutal. Townsend took ancient Aztec scripts, which had been collected and archived, but never fully translated, good, and compiled selections in her book. That makes me think of Unreal Engine. Open quotes, Fifth Son, A New History of the Aztecs. Great, yeah. Close quotes. The title is taken from the Aztec belief that the world has been made and remade 5 times, and that we are currently living under the fifth sun, which began, close quotes, which began a few thousand years ago. Okay, so the Aztecs were young Earth creationists. Townsend explains almost every part of Aztec culture was rewritten by the Spaniards. Okay. They even assigned the name Aztecs, that's correct, to the native people of the Mexican basin. Those native people refer to themselves as the Mexica. Now, the article tells me to pronounce it Mexica. I heard that it was Mexica, but I don't know. Okay? So I'm happy to be corrected. If any of you is fluent in Aztec and you want to tell me, no, Metatron, it's an H, it's an aspirated sound, I'll be more than happy to correct it. In fact, that's where we get the word Mexico from, which is kind of cool. She interchanges the name Aztec, Mexica, and Nahuatl in her book, and that's fantastic. Now, I would like to underline, however, once again, I don't know if this is the professor or if it's the article, but I kind of look and see now a little veiled situation where we are like, oh, those Spaniards, they gave them the name Aztecs. Or why didn't they call them Mexica like they called themselves? Fine, but this is the difference, as I explained recently, between what these are ethnonyms, right? These are names that we give to populations. And these ethnonyms for groups, there are 2 types, endonyms and exonyms. An endonym is the name based on how the population calls itself. An example of that would be the word Nihon, Nihonjin, for the Japan in Japanese, so the country and the people. And then an exonym is how external foreign populations name that people and country. So Japan, Japanese. It's not like there is anything wrong in saying Japanese. Like if you have a problem with the Spaniards calling them Aztecs, because their name was Mexica. It's a nice fun fact. However, it's not like the Spaniards are doing anything that you are not doing, Professor, when you say Japan, or when you say Germany for that matter, because they say Deutschland. We should say Deutschlanders, not Germans. So, I mean, this is not like a naughty Spanish situation. We all do it, okay? So there is that. This is gonna get worse, guys. You've seen nothing. 500 years ago, the Aztecs were a group of nomadic farmers who built one of the greatest empires in history. Debatable, considering that it only lasted, if you really think about it, the Aztecs are very recent. The Inca, the Maya are much more ancient, but the Aztecs, they're medieval, just so you know. The Aztecs are medieval. We're talking 13th century, and then by the time they hit the clash with the Spanish, the Europeans, that's end of story. So I don't know if I would call it one of the greatest empires in history. I'm not trying to be an asshole here. Their capital city was called Tenochtitlan. I can never pronounce that to save my life, and was built on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco in modern-day Mexico City. The ancient Aztecs developed remarkable techniques of engineering and architecture to build causeways, palaces, and pyramids. They expanded their empire and spread out across the Great Valley of Mexico, assimilating neighboring tribes and building transport routes to both coasts. Now, this is all correct. In fact, one of the things that they did have, for example, was bottled water. I don't know if you knew about that one. It's pretty bottled, not with plastic, but I'm saying they did that. They would sell it in the markets. So the Aztec civilization is a fascinating civilization. I would like to underline, however, since I believe what they're trying to do here is to tell us how peaceful and beautiful they were. When we read the word expanded and we read the word assimilating, this often, not always, but often involved war. Not always, because there were some allegiances and some trades, but when whatever tribe didn't want to assimilate or did not like the expansion, they would chop each other's heads off, just for context. Townsend describes an advanced culture. I'm going to pull a Peterson on you, define advanced. Open quotes, they had aqueducts bringing fresh water from across the lake on the shore. Ooh, I have something to say about that. They had concerts in front of the temples where the Aztec king lived. They had libraries of painted scrolls. It was a beautiful and impressive sight. While I agree with the last sentence, I would like to say this. They are a remarkable civilization, but guys, aqueducts, I wouldn't say advanced for a 14th century civilization because they have aqueducts. We had aqueducts in Europe, in the Roman Republic. I'm talking like, gosh, maybe I'm starting to think the oldest aqueduct, probably 7th century BC if we involve the Fertile Crescent, BC. So these guys had 1,000 years plus more, 2,000 years, 2,000 whatever the heck years. I wouldn't consider aqueducts to be something advanced for a medieval culture. I'm being pedantic, guys. You bought the plushie, encouraging me, therefore, to be more pedantic, because the plushie is Metatron subscriber pedantic edition. Pedantic, see in the feet? In the feet? So the more of these you get, the more pedantic I get. It's a byproduct.